Hare Krishna, welcome to all devotees. Today we continue Bhagavatam, Skanda Dusra, second, and chapter 9, answers by citing the Lord's version. We try to understand Shloka Kramanka 14 to 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam
Narayanam
Namaskritya
Namaskritya
Naram
Naram
Chaiva
Chaiva
Narottamam
Narottamam
Devim
Devim
Saraswatim
Saraswatim
Vyasam
Vyasam
Tato
Tatah Jayamudire
Udire
Nashtaprayeshu
Prayeshu
Abhadreshu
Nityam
Nityam
Bhagavata
Bhagavata
Sevaya
Sevaya
Bhagavati
Bhagavati
Uttama
Uttama
Shloke
Shloke
Bhakti
Bhaktir
Bhavati
Bhavati
Naistiki.
Naistiki.
Hare Krishna. Shlok Kramanka 14 to 16. Shrihi Shrihi Yatarupini Urugaya Padayoho
Shrihi yatra rupini urugaya padayoho
Karoti Manam Bauda Vibhuti
karoti manam bahudha vibhutibhihi
Prenkam Shritaya Kusumakara Anugehi
prenkham shritaya kusumakara anugaihi
Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati
vigiyamana priyakarma gayati
Dadarsha Tatra Akhila Satvatam Patim
dadarsh tatra akhila satvatam patim
Shriya Patim Yagyapatim Jagatpatim
श्रेयः पतिं यज्ञपतिं जगत्पतिं
Sunandananda Prabala Arrana Adibihi
सुनंदनंद प्रबल अर्हन आदिभिः
Swaparshada Agrehi Parisevitam Vibhum
स्वपार्षद अग्रैः परिसेवितुं विभुं
Nritya Prasada Vimukam Druk Asavam
भृत्य प्रसादाभिमुखं दृगासवन्
Prasanna Hasa Aruna Lochan Ananam
प्रसन्नहास अरुणलोचन आननं
Kiritinam Kundalinam Chaturbhujam
किरीटिनं कुण्डलीनं चतुर्भुजं
Pitam Shukam Vakshasi Lakshitam Sriya
पीतां शुकं वक्षसि लक्षितं श्रिया
Shrihi Yata Rupini Vrugaya Padayo
श्री यत्र रूपिणी उरुगाय पादयोः
Karoti Manam Bauda Vibhuti
करोति मानं बहुधा विभूतिभिः
Prenkam Shritaya Kusuma Kar Anugehi
प्रेंखं श्रीताया कुसुमाकर अनुगैः
Vigayamana Priyakarma Gayati
विगीयमाना प्रियकर्म गायति
Tadarsha Tatra Akhila Satvatam Patim
ददर्श तत्र अखिल सात्वतां पतिं
Shriyapatim Yagyapatim Jagatpatim
श्रेयपतिं यज्ञपतिं जगत्पतिं
Sunandananda Pravala Arrana Adibihi
सुनंदनंद प्रबल अर्हन आदिभिः
Swaparshata Agrehi Parisevitam Vibhum
स्वपार्षद अग्रैः परिसेवितं विभुं
Vritya Prasada Vimukam Druka Asavam
भृत्य प्रासादाभिमुखं दृगासवं
Prasanna Hasa Aruna Lochana Ananam
प्रसन्नहास अरुणलोचनम् आननं
Kiritinam Kundalinam Chatubhujam
किरीटिनं कुण्डलीनं चतुर्भुजं
Pitam Shukam Vakshasi Lakshitam Shriya
पीतांशुकं वक्षसि लक्षितं श्रिया
Shri Yatra Rupini Urugaya Padayo Karoti Manam Bahuda Vibhutibhihi Prenkam Shritaya Kusuma Kara Anugehi Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati Dadarsha Tatra Kila Satvatam Patim Shriya Patim Yagyapatim Jagatpatim Sunandanandana Prabala Arran Adibi Swaparshada Agre Parisevitam Vibhum Nritya Prasada Vimukam Druka Asamam Prasana Asa Aruna Lochana Ananam Kiritinam Kundalinam Chatubhujam Pitam Shukam Vakshasi Lakshitam Shriya
श्रीयत्र रूपिणी अरुगाय पादयोः करोति मानं बहुधा विभूतिभिः प्रेंखं श्रीताया कुसुमाकर अनुगैः विगीयमाना प्रियकर्म गायति ददर्श त्र अखिल सात्वतां पतिं श्रियः पतिं यज्ञपतिं जगत्पतिं सुनंदन नंद प्रबल आर्हनादिभिः स्वपार्षद अग्रैः परिसेवितं विभुं भृत्य प्रसादभिमुखं दुर्गासवं प्रसन्न आस अरुण लोचन लोच आननं किरीटिनं कुण्डलिनं चतुर्भुजं पीतांशुकं वक्षसि लक्षितं श्रिया.
Translation and purport by the Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The goddess of fortune in her transcendental form is engaged in the loving service of the Lord's lotus feet and being moved by the black bees, followers of spring. She is not only engaged in variegated pleasure, service to the Lord, along with her constant companion, but is also engaged in singing the glories of the Lord's activities. Lord Brahma saw in the Vaikuṇṭha planet the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of the entire devotee of the community, the Lord of the goddess of fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord of universe, and who is served by the foremost servitor like Nanda, Sunandan, Prabal, and Arran, his immediate associates. The personality of Godhead, seen leaning favorably toward his loving servitor, his very sight intoxicating and attractive appear to be very much satisfied. He had a smiling face decorated with an enchanting reddish hue. He was dressed in yellow robes and wore earrings and a helmet on his head. He had four heads, and his chest was marked with the lines of the goddess of fortune. Purport by the Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When we speak of a king, it is naturally understood that the king is accompanied by uh, his confidential associate, like his secretary, private secretary, aide, de camp, ministers, and advisors. So also when we see the Lord, we see him uh, with his different energies, associates, confidential servitor, etc. So the Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, the Lord of all devotees, sects, the Lord of all opulences, the Lord of sacrifices, and the enjoyer of everything in his entire creation, is not only the Supreme Person, but also is always surrounded by his immediate associates, all engaged in their loving transcendental service to him. In the Padma Purana, Uttarakhand, there is a full description of the yoga pit or the particular place where the Lord is in audience to his eternal devotees. In that yoga pit, the personifications of religion, knowledge, opulence, and renunciation are all seated at the lotus feet of the Lord. The four Vedas, namely Ruk, Sam, Yajur, and Atharva, are present there personally to advise the Lord. The 16 energy headed by Chanda are all present there. Chanda and Kumud are the most first two doorkeepers. At the middle door are the doorkeepers named Bhadra and Subhadra. At the last door are Jai and Vijay. There are other doorkeepers also named Kumud, Kumudaksha, Pundrik, Vaman, Shankukarna, Sarvenetra, Sumukh, etc. The Lord's palace is well decorated and protected by the above mentioned doorkeeper. Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Sri Gurave Nama Sri Chaitanya Mana Abhishtam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guroho Sri Yutapadakammalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavāncha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitancha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा। Today we continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2nd, chapter 9, answers by citing the Lord's version. And we try to understand shloka kramanka 14 to 16. In 14 shlokas, they're describing about the goddess of the fortune, how she uh, engaged with her constant companion in the singing of the glories of the Lord's activities and engaged in the loving service of the Lord. And in 15 shloka, they're describing about the goddess of Lord, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord universe. How that is comparing with the king. How when king is naturally understood that when uh, king is go anywhere, so with king they are accompanied by the confidential associate, secretary, private secretary, minister, advisor, etc. Like that, when Supreme Personality of Godhead come in and taking uh, avatara, that time they come with their associate, their uh, associate and uh, confidential servitor, different energies and leaders also uh, of the living entities, the Lord of all the devotee sects, Lord of all offenses, sacrifices, and enjoyer of everything. And in 16 shloka, describe about the different their doorkeeper's name and doorkeeper, that is describing Padma Purana, Uttarakhand. Prabhuji will tell us in nicely. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So many thanks, Mataji, for this vision of Vaikuṇṭha, where we are now being reaching the level where we can have the first darśana of Krishna as it is, the Supreme Lord as it is. So as we see in these shlokas, beautiful verses, Brahmājī has received direct darshan of Krishna in his eternal abode Vaikuṇṭha. So these verses are not only describing about the spiritual world, but also about the Lord's personal beauty, his associates, his loving reciprocation with his devotees. So this section that we are covering is significant. Whatever doubts may still have remained about any impersonal or idealistic conceptions of God, they are completely shattered with this description. Brahmājī personally sees the Lord, his consort, the Lakshmis, his associates, his palace, his effulgent spiritual form, and firmly establishes that the supreme truth is a person full of attributes, beauty, and loving relationships. And what does he see? The very beginning. He sees the loving service being rendered by Lakṣmī Devī, the goddess of fortune in a transcendental form. And she is serving the lotus feet of the Lord. She is moved by the black bees, followers of spring. She is not only engaged in variegated pleasure service to the Lord along with her constant companions, but is also singing simultaneously the glories of the Lord's activities. Just close your eyes and try to just imagine this description of the goddess of fortune, goddess Lakshmi, eternally residing at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Many times now that Diwali is coming, people will be engaging in the Lakshmi Pujan. So there's controversy right now whether it is to be done on 20th or 21st. But that apart, what this proves is Shloka today that she is not an independent goddess of who bestows wealth at her own will. Rather, she serves the Lord constantly along with her maidservants in complete devotion and humility. And then, whomsoever Krishna is pleased with, she showers the land. Her beauty, her fragrance, her songs glorifying the Supreme Lord, the buzzing of the bees around her, that symbolizes the atmosphere of Vaikuṇṭha, full of sweetness, harmony, devotion. The source of all opulences, the Shri is eternally serving the Supreme Lord. Not that the Lord depends on her. In fact, she derives her fortune from serving his lotus feet. So the real wealth is not gold or possessions, but the fortune of serving Krishna with love. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Ram
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Hare.
Hare. And that proves why Ravana, who had so much of wealth, still failed in his life because he couldn't serve Ram with love. Because Krishna is the Lord of all lords. Lord Brahmājī saw in that Vaikuṇṭha planet the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of the devotees, the Lord of goddess of fortune, the Lord of all yagyas, the Lord of the universe. What did he see? He was served by his foremost attendants like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabala, and Arhan. So look at the majestic description of the Lord's sovereignty that we see here. Satvatapatihi, that means Lord of all devotees. Shrihapatihi, the Lord of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Yagyapatihi, the Lord of all sacrifices. And Jagatpatihi, the Lord of the universe. And he is surrounded by his intimate associates. Nanda, Sunanda, Prabala, Arhan are always engaged in his personal service. Prabhupada in the purport gives a very good comparison that a king is always accompanied by his ministers and guards. So Lord is always eternally surrounded by his devotees. When we see the Lord, we must see him with his associates, energies, opulences, not as an isolated or impersonal being. That is why you will see that nowhere is Krishna alone. In all the vigrahas that we see, he is always accompanied by his eternal consort. Even as a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is always accompanied by Nityananda Mahaprabhu. Even as Vitthala, he is accompanied by Rukmini, who is standing near him. Though Pundalik gave two different bricks for them to stand and they were long apart, still when the service happens, it happens together. So a king without his kingdom and subjects is incomplete. Similarly, Lord is always complete with his devotees and energy. And look at the description of the color of the Lord and his effulgence. The shama, the bodily color, the deep bluish hue is reflected in the sky. The blue color we see on the sky above is just a faint reflection of the Lord's transcendental effulgence known as Brahmājī. So just like sunshine is a reflection of sun, the bluish sky is a reflection of Krishna's bodily effulgence. Even by looking at the sky, one can remember the Lord's beauty, because behind all cosmic light and energy stands the Shama Sundar form of Lord, eternally youthful, blissful, full of personality. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare. When Prabhupada was talking on the shlokas in Tokyo, he warns against the impersonal conceptions of God. Some foolishly say God is Nirakar, without form. But if even a president has ministers, a staff, and opulence, how can Supreme Lord, who is the source of everything, be without associates or form? So Lord is not a void or an energy. He is a person with infinite potencies. Aishwarya samagrasya viryasya yashasashriya. So when Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill at 7 years age, he demonstrated his all potency. When he married 16,108 queens, he shows all his opulence. And therefore we worship not a poor or imaginary God, but the supreme Lord of wealth, strength, beauty, knowledge, fame, and renunciation, the Shaida Aishwaryas. The myth is of Daridra Narayana, which is a false conception. Prabhupada strongly rejects this misleading idea that God is poor and we must serve him by serving the poor. The Lord is Shriyapati, husband of goddess of fortune. He can never be poor. Serving the poor is good, but equating them with Narayana is an offense. The Lord is to be served with devotion, and through that service, the whole world benefits. Through compassion means giving people the opportunity to hear about and serve Krishna. And hope that we get the Lord's compassionate glance. The personality of Godhead, leaning favorably towards his devotees, Brahmājī saw that he appeared very satisfied. His face was decorated with enchanting reddish hue. He was smiling. He wore yellow garments, earrings, shining helmet. His chest was marked with the lines of goddess of fortune. So, this verse reveals the essence of Vaikuṇṭha, the Lord's loving exchange with his devotees. The Lord glances upon his servants with Bhratya Prasada Bhi Abhimukam Druga Asavam, eyes filled with affection and intoxicated with compassion. So he does not need anyone's service. He is Atma Ram, fully satisfied in himself. Yet he feels pleasure when devotees serve him out of love. And this is the heart of bhakti. Service not for reward, but out of pure affection. Prabhupada quotes about the Yoga Pit and the Lord's associates. In Padma Purana, the eternal throne, Yoga Pit, is described. They are the personifications of religion, knowledge, renunciation, and opulence sit at his lotus feet. The four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sam, Atharva, personally offer prayers to him. And the Lord's palace is protected by doorkeepers, Jaya and Vijay, Kumud, Pundrik, Bhadra, Subhadra. So everything there is alive and conscious, because Vaikuṇṭha is the realm of spiritual energy. There is no matter there. So there is a difference between material and spiritual service. Prabhupada contrasts this with what we do here. In material world, both master and servant are dissatisfied. Whatever we do, a servant serves for money, not love. The master pays, but reluctantly. No one is happy. Even great leaders like Gandhiji served society selflessly, but were met with ingratitude, violence. But in Vaikuṇṭha, service is completely different. The Lord does not need service, yet devotees are eager to serve him. They compete not for gain, but for the joy of pleasing him. Even though there is not a single speck of dust in Vaikuṇṭha, the servants still sweep the pathways out of love for the Lord. That is service in perfection, spontaneous, selfless. Because the essence of devotion is the Lord's smiling face, the prasannahasaha, the gentle smile of the Lord is the greatest benediction for a devotee. His smile assures that I am pleased with you. Just like a father smiles lovingly upon his child, the Lord's glance bestows eternal shelter. So unlike this world where masters exploit servants, in Vaikuṇṭha, the Lord delights in giving pleasure to his devotees. And that is why it is called Vaikuṇṭha, the world without anxieties. So it is now up to us to choose the real master. In this world, we all serve our senses, money, nation, family, yet none are satisfied. But if we serve Krishna, even without expectation, we become eternally fulfilled. So Prabhupada says, why serve the ungrateful masters of this world? And the Supreme Lord is ever smiling, ever gracious, ever ready to bless his servant. The Lord described in these verses is not far away. Through chanting his holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. One cleanses the heart, Cheto Darpan Marjanam, and have the same revelation Brahma had. So the vision of Vaikuṇṭha is not a distant dream. It's a destiny of every sincere soul who awakens love for Krishna through devotion. So the main lessons for us from these shlokas, that Supreme Lord is a person eternally served by Lakshmi and his devotees. Lord's beauty and color pervade even the material sky. Daridra Narayan, these are all false ideas, material misconceptions. In spiritual world, both master and servant are eternally blissful, and pure bhakti is only means to see God face to face. So when the Lord smiles upon his devotee, that is the perfection of life. We are all searching for happiness in temporary service, but real peace begins. Real happiness comes when we serve the smiling face of Sri Krishna, the Lord of Lakshmi, the Lord of our heart, the Lord of all. Hare Krishna.